Speaker, and I rise to take a call in this, the third reading of the Budget Measures Financial Support for Newborn Children Bill, which the Greens will be supporting. The Green Party believes passionately in supporting our children, and we believe in the value of good lives for everyone and a fair future for everyone. We believe that every single child in this country deserves to thrive, not just survive, or not have their lives cut short or harmed by illness from diseases of poverty, as is all too often the case in this country at the moment. This government has presented us with a budget where they have told us they are giving $500 million to families to support families in need. New Zealand needs to know that that $500 million that sounds so significant is actually only $125 million a year over the next 4 years, and that this government, the same government, is spending $1 billion a year in servicing the interest on the debt that they have got this country into by spending on things like American-style expressways. Is that the values that express a honest desire to support the families of this country? I don't believe it does. This government has told us that this is a fiscally responsible response to the challenges, and yet it does nothing to address child poverty. The 285,000 children in this country who are living in poverty. And I do want to draw the members' attention to that. We heard the sounds of a baby in the gallery earlier, and how that sound can't but touch our hearts. And I would like to ask the members to reflect for a minute on one of the provisions in this bill, which is relating to the parental tax credit, and the thought that that baby and that family may be in a working family, not receiving ACC, not on a student allowance, not on a benefit, and that family would be getting extra support from this government. And if there was another baby making that same sound, sitting on its parents' knees right next to it, that was from a beneficiary family, struggling on just over $200 a week. And I would like to remind the members in this House that that's not so different from what we get as a nightly accommodation rate when we travel, and that is expected to support that family for an entire week. They are getting nothing in this budget from this government. And I would ask, is that delivering on what we want for our children in this country? Is that degree of discrimination delivering the best that we have to offer? And I can't believe that it is. When we have a surplus, when we are choosing to spend money on other things, that we are paying off debt that we don't need to be paying off, because we could have had an temporary earthquake levy that wouldn't have required us to borrow for that, that we could have not had those tax cuts for the richest New Zealanders, that we could have lived within our means and provided for our most vulnerable children. I think this House needs to reflect on the values that are being delivered by this government. We absolutely support the extension to paid parental leave, and would note though, and I think it's part of an important debate, that the Child Poverty Action Group has criticised this as a priority because it isn't reaching to the most vulnerable families. And I think that is an important debate, and it's a shame we haven't been able to go through a select committee process to enable that political public discussion. When we first got paid parental leave, I was the executive director for the National YWCA, and we were really involved in that campaign to first get the 12 weeks. And I've got to say, it was a tough campaign. We had to do a lot of work to convince the then Labour Alliance government, the Labour Party in particular, to support introducing paid parental leave. It was a tough campaign. And I think it's heartening for the community to see that now the Labour Party is in a position where they are bringing forward 26 weeks and they are right on board with this issue, and the recognition that paid parental leave makes a huge difference on every measure to our society. And it is now too encouraging to see the National Party coming on board and getting that. So to all of you thousands of submitters, all of you, so many people who sent in postcards, know that you are making a difference, that this House is starting to get it, that paid parental leave will deliver. The National Party, admittedly, has only gone part way, and I was so disappointed last night to see the amendment for 26 weeks get voted down when we had heard from, 3,795 submitters who desperately and so eloquently supported the need for that 26 weeks because of the health benefits in terms of breastfeeding and attachment, and the long-term benefits to us as a society from supporting that early time in life. It is undeniable, the benefit of that time frame, and there was such good debate about it. And employers were very clear around 6 months was actually easier for them, because at the moment, with the 14 weeks, they're typically just covering rather than getting somebody in to replace the person for that 6 months, because it's too short a time period. So it's actually increasing the costs for them and the burden of their staff. So actually I do ask National Party, who supposedly supports business and those interests, is 16 weeks and then laterly 18 weeks going to address that need that's been identified by those businesses? And I'm not sure that it does. They were quite clear from my hearing of the submissions that 6 months was a good starting period for being able to manage that transition from their perspective, as well as for delivering the social good. So finally, I do want to just go back to the fundamentals and what we are valuing as a society. So this bill is bringing in 16 weeks paid parental leave next year, and then 18 weeks the year after. It is an acknowledgement, and I thank the National Party for that acknowledgement. It is an important thing for all the people in New Zealand to understand that you will listen, even if you won't go as far, as they would like. And I would like to, though, also just say and finish on the core point for us and the major disappointment for us with this bill around the parental tax credit. And while it offers some money to middle-income families, really it is just an adjustment to recognise the decreased value of working for families, because the government has not been adjusting that to the level that it should have been, so it has decreased in value. So really that $13 million that's going in there is pretty much a token effort. But I'm not underestimating the power of $70 in the hand for 10 weeks for those families. It's just gutting that it's not to the families who absolutely need it, and that it will, in effect, entrench the inequality and that gap between those who, for reasons of disability or violence or just not being able to be in a job at that time, are locked out of the workforce at this time. Those children of those families deserve our best effort. This bill offers breadcrumbs, and we're happy to take them for now, but boy, do we look forward to the time we're in a position to be able to offer everyone a fair share of the cake.
Dr. Paul Hutchinson.
Mr. Speaker, it is indeed a privilege and pleasure to speak